Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. This is your daily news fix. Today we're talking about good ideas and bad ideas. Check this out. Chinese leaders extend billions of dollars to Russian banks after Western sanctions. That's got to be a bad idea. Beijing has pushed renminbi as alternative global currency to the dollar. So, as you know, we were putting sanctions on Russia as one way to fight the war, yet China is lending them money. What the heck? And you can see here some details. Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Construction Bank, and Agricultural Bank of China increased their exposure to Russia from 2.2 billion to 9.7 billion in the 14 months to March. So this is actually news to me. I knew that Russia and China were still doing business, but not necessarily the banks were giving them money. Not so great. And evidently, China's not alone. There's a bank in Austria, the Austrian Raiffeisen Bank. So if you're in Europe, please comment on this. And evidently, they upped their exposure by 40%. And what is this? So on 29.2 billion, and then maybe 25 billion. So in these kind of range, in the 20th billion range. So even more than China. But I can tell you about the Chinese banks. I've had bank accounts at 3 out of 4 of these. These are major banks in China. The Austrian one, I just have no comment on. So like I said, I'd love to hear from people in Europe. But I just think overall, this is a bad idea. Is Russia going to pay you back? I mean, you guys can see what's happening. They're in the middle of a war, and their ruble is crumbling. But essentially, China's trying to encourage people to use the renminbi or their yuan. Renminbi translated is like people's money, if you don't know. Also, too, you check this out. Country Garden has wired a ringgit bond coupon. So the ringgit is the Malaysian currency, so they paid a bit of money. However, it's actually not that much. So they made a payment for $617,000 equivalent, right? That was just today. And then evidently, though, they owe another 22.5 million on another payment. If they don't make that in the next couple of days, they're going to risk default. I see here September 5th through 6th. If I had to bet, I don't think they're going to make it. If I had to bet, but we'll see. We got a couple days to find out. Actually, it's probably tomorrow, the next day. And overall, I would say giving money to Country Garden a bad idea, and I'm sure a lot of people are regretting it now. And I want to pose this question to you. Is buying a Tesla a good idea or a bad idea? So this is the 2024 Tesla Model 3, and this is actually their cheapest model. However, if you bought their more expensive models, Tesla owners are angry, as you can see here, because they buying their vehicles right before the latest big price cuts and letting Elon Musk know, I feel completely duped. And I get it, right? You guys could understand this. You just bought a car and then like Elon cuts, say, $10,000, $15,000 off the price tag. That's like a sizable chunk of money. And you're like, ugh. And, I don't want to just talk about bad ideas. I also want to talk about good ideas. And in fact, picking up a copy of my book is a good idea. It's called Positive Angles, available on Amazon. I wrote it just for you, and I think you're really going to like it. So please pick up a copy. And moreover, how about a Mercedes? True story. They're actually going to be targeting the Tesla Model 3. That's why I brought it up. And I'll be curious what you guys think about this. When you look at the Model 3, right? This is right here. This is the Tesla one. And you compare it to the Mercedes. Which one do you think is the most attractive? So for me, looking at these, I actually think the Mercedes is a better looking car. I'm not a big fan of the way the Model 3 looks, although I'll be perfectly fair. It is a fun car to drive. However, I have a feeling this new Mercedes may end up being a real competition for Tesla. So I'll be curious what your thoughts on that. If you just picked up a Model 3, do you kind of wish you gotten a Mercedes, or are you just in the market this and thinking about this and thinking, okay, which one, am I going to go for? Well, I'll tell you one thing. The Mercedes is going for a range of 466 miles, and I was looking at the Model 3 range. That's around 300 miles, and so this is actually going to have better range, looks better. I think it's going to be a hit. I'll be curious what you guys think, or if you're all in on the Tesla. Now, talking about good ideas, bad ideas, the housing market may take a hit. So if you think it's a good idea to buy a house now, you might want to wait. Here's why. Housing market is about to take a hit as student loan payments restart. The basic gist of it is that people have to pay money on their student loans, right? And so they can't necessarily afford their mortgages or necessarily afford to qualify for, home loans. So this might bring prices down. And in fact, this is also a true story. Many people who are getting married, you can read the headlines here. Housing market affordability is so strained that couples want down payment cash rather than a wedding gift. Now, I can tell you here in Korea, it's actually really normal for for people to give cash at the wedding. It's like a normal thing. You give cash gifts, and I do mean cash. People actually bring cash and stuff in envelopes, and at the end of the wedding, you actually have to count up all the cash. It's actually really interesting. But in USA, I think people generally don't just give cash at a wedding, and also too, I think people prefer to like do the bridal registry, etc. Then you buy them towels, buy them coffee makers, buy them bedding, these kind of things. But I'd be curious if you guys think the culture is changing in the USA, where you are essentially say, hey, we want to pick up a house, we want to buy a house, but it just costs so much money. Please give us cash so we can do that. And I don't think that's a crazy idea myself. I mean, it's more practical probably, especially the way things are going. But I'll tell you though, not every marriage goes well. Evidently, Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner are headed for divorce, and I guess we'll classify this as a bad idea to get married. Whether or not getting divorced is a good idea, if they're not happy, I mean, I guess that's what you got to do. So if you don't know, he's a famous singer, which frankly I don't really know. I've heard of the Jonas Brothers, I just don't know their music. But I do like Game of Thrones, and Sophie Turner was in that. So we'll see how that turns out with them. But evidently, they thought their marriage was a bad idea. Moreover, this is actually a really interesting one. If you're in the market for diamonds, evidently, if you bought one, say in the last couple of months, it might have been a bad idea or time to buy one, because I didn't know this, but diamond prices are in a free fall in one key corner of the market. So here's the deal. This is an interesting one. I guess fake diamonds, or synthetic, however you want to call it, look much better than they did in the past. So evidently, people are like, well, I could buy the synthetic one or I could buy a real one, but that synthetic one looks pretty good. And apparently diamond prices are going down. And if you don't know, it's like the De Beers family, and they've had like a monopoly on this stuff. And a lot of these diamonds, since it's controlled by one family, it's kind of an artificial market in a way. And so I think it's actually really quite interesting. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. If you think, because I just haven't seen one recently that I know of, right? A synthetic diamond that's like, oh my God, it looks so good. Like, why even bother with the real one? So evidently, yeah, people are buying the fake ones now because, they look good. And that's what's going on with that. Talking about good ideas, bad ideas. Evidently, if you went to Burning Man this year, it was definitely a bad idea. They're being trapped by rain and mud. You guys haven't heard about this? I think it's like, so I've heard different numbers. I've heard 60,000. I've heard 70,000 people. They basically can't go in and out. They're in the middle of the desert in Nevada. Last time I checked it, I was looking at the map here, and I think they're like 100 miles from Reno. It's a couple-hour drive to the nearest airport, but because there's so much mud, no one can go in and out. The people have been told to shelter in place. They're worried about food, and evidently some people are partying on. So if you have any friends or family there, I'd love to hear, like, are they okay? Evidently, though, guys, someone actually died. So I'm not making jokes about this because it doesn't sound like a good situation. So, overall, it was a bad idea to go to this thing. And this is also a true story. When I lived in LA, I did know people who do like to go to this kind of stuff. I myself don't go to this stuff, and I probably wouldn't go. It just doesn't appeal to me. And after seeing the rain and stuff like that, I'm like, nah, it's not happening. Bad idea. So anyway, that's been the Daily News Fix. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the good ideas and bad ideas. And I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you in the next video.